If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. Share this story with someone who still believes that kindness, forgiveness, and true love can change a life. The wedding should have been the happiest day of their lives. Instead, it ended in a silence so heavy that even the crystal chandeliers seemed to stop shining. Before anyone could celebrate, the groom walked away from his bride, leaving every guest wondering what terrible secret had just entered the room. The grand ballroom of the Kang family's luxury hotel overflowed with Korea's wealthiest business leaders. Cameras flashed as the newly married couple stood before hundreds of guests. Amara, elegant and composed, held her bouquet with quiet dignity, refusing to let anyone see the uncertainty in her eyes. Across from her stood Kang Min-jae, the cold billionaire CEO, whose expression had never changed throughout the ceremony. Without saying a single word, Min-jae turned his back on his bride and walked toward the exit. Whispers spread through the ballroom. So the rumors were true. This marriage was only for the family's reputation. They were never in love. Amara lowered her eyes for only a second, then lifted her head again. She would not allow strangers to see her heart breaking. Just as the guests began leaving, the ballroom doors opened once more. An elderly lawyer, dressed in black, entered while carrying a sealed envelope marked with the official Kang family crest. His voice echoed across the silent hall. Chairman Kang left strict instructions. This letter must only be opened after his eldest son is legally married, and only if his bride's name is Amara. Every conversation stopped instantly. Min-jae slowly turned around. His face, cold only moments earlier, filled with disbelief. "That's impossible," he whispered. "My father never knew anyone named Amara." The lawyer looked directly into his eyes. "He knew her long before you ever did." Across the room, Min-jae's uncle suddenly tightened his grip on a champagne glass. His confident smile disappeared, replaced by unmistakable fear. For the first time that evening, Amara realized this marriage had never been just a business arrangement. Somewhere inside that sealed envelope, a truth powerful enough to shake one of Korea's richest families had been waiting for years. But before the lawyer could break the seal, one unexpected voice cut through the silence, stopping everyone in their tracks. No one is born with a heart of stone. Sometimes, life quietly replaces hope with silence. As the wedding guests questioned their future, neither Amara nor Min-jae realized that years of hidden pain had already connected their lives long before they ever met. Amara grew up in a peaceful African town where her grandmother taught her that a person's character was worth more than any fortune. After losing her parents as a young adult, she refused to let grief define her future. Instead of asking others for help, she worked tirelessly, building a respected community education business that offered opportunities to adults who had been denied them. Her success came from honesty, compassion, and determination, not wealth or powerful connections. Whenever people asked why she never chased a richer life, she smiled gently and answered, "I can live without love, but never without self-respect." Thousands of miles away in Seoul, Kang Min-jae lived inside a world of luxury that felt colder than winter. After the sudden passing of his father, he inherited one of Korea's largest business empires. Newspapers called him the youngest billionaire CEO in the country. Employees admired his discipline. Competitors feared his intelligence. But behind every successful decision was a lonely man who believed trust always came with a price. His relatives treated family dinners like board meetings. Every smile hid an agenda. Every handshake demanded something in return. When they forced him into an arranged marriage before the shareholders' election, Min-jae accepted without protest. To him, marriage was simply another business contract. One evening, standing alone inside the silent mansion, he whispered to himself, "Trust is the most expensive thing in this family." Elsewhere in the house, Amara looked out of a window, wondering if two strangers could ever build a future on honesty when neither had chosen this path. That same night, unable to sleep, Min-jae entered his late father's private office for the first time since the funeral. While searching through an old wooden cabinet, he discovered a faded photograph hidden inside a leather journal. His breathing stopped. The picture showed his late father standing beside an elderly African woman, Amara's grandmother. On the back was a handwritten message that changed everything. Sometimes the strongest walls do not fall with grand gestures. They begin to crack through small acts of kindness. As Min-jae quietly watched his unexpected bride, he started questioning everything he had been told about the woman who had entered his life. The morning after discovering the old photograph, Min-jae couldn't stop thinking about it. Instead of confronting Amara, he chose to observe her from a distance. Every move she made seemed to challenge the image his relatives had created. Inside the Kong mansion, servants lowered their heads whenever family members passed by. Most were invisible to the powerful people who lived there, but not to Amara. She greeted every employee with a warm smile and remembered each person's name. When an elderly housekeeper accidentally dropped a tray of expensive teacups, the room fell silent. Everyone expected Amara to complain. Instead, she knelt beside the frightened woman and helped gather the broken pieces. "It's only glass," Amara said gently. "People are worth far more." The housekeeper's eyes filled with grateful tears. Later that afternoon, Min-jae arranged for a priceless diamond necklace to be delivered to Amara's room as a gesture of courtesy. Within minutes, she appeared outside his office holding the elegant jewelry box. She placed it on his desk without opening it. "I can't accept this," she said calmly. Min-jae looked at her in surprise. Most people would never return something so valuable. Amara met his eyes without hesitation. "Respect cannot be bought. If I ever earn your trust, it shouldn't come from diamonds." For the first time in years, the cold CEO smiled. It was small, almost invisible, but it was real. He quietly admitted, "You're nothing like the woman they described." A soft smile crossed Amara's face. "Maybe you've been listening to the wrong people." Neither of them noticed someone watching from the upstairs balcony. Min-jae's uncle stood hidden in the shadows, his expression growing darker as the distance between the newlyweds slowly disappeared. That evening, while the family gathered for dinner, the chairman's sealed letter vanished from the lawyer's locked briefcase without a single witness. When the lawyer reached for the envelope moments later, it was gone. First conflict ***, just when trust began replacing suspicion, one carefully planned lie destroyed everything. Sometimes the greatest betrayal does not come from an enemy. It comes from the people standing closest, waiting for the perfect moment to break two hearts apart. The following morning, the Kong Group headquarters exploded with chaos. Every major news channel reported the same shocking headline. New CEO's wife secretly planned marriage to control the Kong fortune. Attached to every report was what appeared to be a confidential financial document. It claimed Amara had invested in shell companies linked to the Kong family weeks before the wedding and intended to gain influence over the company after becoming Min-jae's wife. The report looked authentic. Even the company seal appeared genuine. Within hours, angry shareholders demanded an emergency meeting. Some insisted the marriage should be canceled before it damaged the company's reputation. Inside his office, Min-jae stared at the documents in disbelief. He wanted to remember the woman who comforted an elderly housekeeper and returned a priceless necklace without hesitation. But years of betrayal had taught him one painful lesson. Evidence was easier to trust than people. Without raising his voice, he placed the report on the desk between them. "I need the truth," he said quietly. Amara looked at the papers only once. She immediately understood someone had carefully planned this. She could have defended herself. She could have revealed her business records. She could have fought to prove her innocence. Instead, she slowly removed the wedding ring from her finger and placed it beside the report. Her voice remained calm, even though her heart was breaking. "If trust needs proof," she whispered, "then love never existed." Min-jae said nothing. His silence hurt more than any accusation. Amara picked up her small suitcase and walked through the mansion one last time. Every employee she had treated with kindness lowered their heads, unable to hide their sadness as she quietly disappeared through the front gate. From an upstairs window, Min-jae watched her leave. For reasons he could not explain, the mansion suddenly felt emptier than ever before. Late that night, the elderly lawyer received an anonymous package outside his office. Inside was the chairman's missing envelope. But when he carefully opened it, his face turned pale. One page had been deliberately removed. Sometimes the greatest truth is hidden not inside a fortune, but inside a promise. As Min-jae struggled with the guilt of letting Amara walk away, his late father's final words began revealing a history that would forever change everything he believed. The following morning, the elderly lawyer requested a private meeting inside Chairman Kang's old study. The room had remained untouched since the chairman's passing. Dust covered the bookshelves, and the air carried memories that seemed frozen in time. Without saying a word, the lawyer placed an old leather journal on the desk. "This belonged to your father," he said quietly. "He wanted you to read it only when the time was right." With trembling hands, Min-jae opened the worn pages. The journal described an international business crisis that had nearly destroyed the Kong Group more than 20 years earlier. During a visit to Africa, Chairman Kong had been betrayed by trusted business partners. His investments collapsed overnight, and his future seemed hopeless. Then one unexpected person stepped forward. Amara's grandmother. She offered him a safe place to stay, introduced him to honest local partners, and helped him rebuild the business relationships that eventually saved his company. She never asked for money. She never requested shares. She accepted nothing in return. Instead, before they said goodbye, she made only one request. "If our families ever meet again," she told him, "choose kindness over pride." Min-jae stopped reading. His chest tightened as he remembered every moment he had doubted Amara. The next page contained his father's own handwriting. "Wealth disappears. Character remains forever." Tears slowly filled Min-jae's eyes. For the first time, he understood the truth. His marriage had never been arranged to protect the company's reputation. It had been his father's final promise to the woman who once protected his future. The lawyer gently closed the journal. "Your father believed Amara carried the same strength and integrity as her grandmother." Min-jae looked toward the window, realizing he had pushed away the one person his father had trusted most. Just as he reached for the chairman's restored envelope, something felt wrong. The final page was missing. Someone had carefully removed it before returning the letter. Whatever had been written there was important enough for someone to risk everything to keep it hidden. The truth was never hidden to protect a family. It was hidden to steal an empire. As Min-jae followed the trail left by his late father, he discovered that the real betrayal had never been between him and Amara. It had been inside his own bloodline all along. Unable to ignore the missing page, Min-jae returned to the oldest archive beneath Kong Group headquarters. It was a forgotten room where decades of company records were stored. His father had once said, "History always leaves a witness." For hours, Min-jae searched through dusty files and locked cabinets. Then he noticed something unusual. One archive box carried his father's personal seal, but had been filed under the wrong year. Inside was the missing page. His hands trembled as he unfolded it. The final page revealed that Chairman Kong had carefully planned the timing of Min-jae's marriage to honor his promise to Amara's grandmother. But someone inside the family had secretly changed the schedule after the chairman's death. Attached to the page were handwritten notes and internal company records. They pointed to one person, Min-jae's uncle. He had delayed the chairman's original plan, stolen the sealed letter, arranged the forged financial report, and manipulated the marriage timeline. His goal had never been to destroy Amara. She was only an innocent obstacle. While Min-jae struggled with public scandal and a broken marriage, the uncle quietly gathered support from powerful shareholders to seize control of Kong Group. The marriage had been used as a distraction. The company had always been the real target. Min-jae closed his eyes, overwhelmed by regret. Every accusation against Amara, every moment of silence, every doubt, none of it had been her fault. He whispered into the empty archive room, "You never betrayed me, my own family did." For the first time, he understood that Amara had suffered because she had unknowingly become part of a battle that began long before either of them met. Determined to make things right, Min-jae rushed toward the elevator, ready to find Amara before it was too late. But before he reached the lobby, his phone rang. It was the company's secretary. Her voice shook with panic. "Mr. Kong, your uncle has called an emergency board meeting. They're voting today to remove you as CEO forever." The most painful battles are not fought in courtrooms or boardrooms. They are fought inside the human heart. As Kong Group's future hung by a thread, Min-jae faced a choice that would define not only his career, but the kind of man he would become. The emergency board meeting began in complete silence. Around the long conference table sat the company's largest shareholders, senior executives, and members of the Kong family. At the head of the room, Min-jae's uncle stood confidently, convinced his victory was only moments away. Then the doors opened. Amara quietly walked inside. She had not come to defend herself. She had come to end the conflict. The uncle immediately pointed toward her. This woman brought shame to our family, he declared. Since she entered this house, our reputation has collapsed. If Kong Group is to survive, she must leave, and Min Jae must step aside. Several board members lowered their eyes, unsure of what to believe. Amara remained calm. Without anger or resentment, she walked to the center of the room and placed her wedding ring on the conference table. She looked at Min Jae with gentle sadness. Saving your future is more important than saving our marriage, she said softly. If my leaving protects your company, then I will leave with no regrets. Those words shattered the walls Min Jae had spent years building around his heart. He suddenly remembered the housekeeper she had comforted, the diamond necklace she had returned, and his father's journal praising character above wealth. The truth became impossible to ignore. He stepped forward, his voice trembling. No. The room fell silent. For the first time in years, the cold billionaire CEO allowed tears to fill his eyes. He turned toward Amara. I spent my whole life protecting my company, he said, struggling to speak, and almost lost the only person protecting my heart. Then, before the entire board, Min Jae bowed his head. I'm sorry, Amara. The room was frozen. Even his uncle looked stunned. Before anyone could respond, the conference room doors opened once again. The elderly lawyer entered, carrying a black leather folder marked with Chairman Kang's official seal. He placed it on the table and spoke calmly. This is the chairman's final signed document, and everything you believe today is about to change. The greatest victory is not winning power. It is watching the truth speak when no one else can. As the chairman's final document was opened, decades of deception collapsed in a single unforgettable moment. The elderly lawyer slowly unlocked the black leather folder and placed several sealed documents before the board. Every shareholder leaned forward. Even Min Jae's uncle, who had appeared confident only minutes earlier, suddenly looked uneasy. The lawyer adjusted his glasses and began reading Chairman Kang's final declaration. My family will never be measured by wealth alone. Any family member proven to betray our core values of honesty, loyalty, and integrity shall immediately lose every leadership right within Kong Group. Silence filled the room. The lawyer opened another file. Inside were years of carefully preserved evidence. Private letters, financial records, security reports, even handwritten notes from Chairman Kong himself. Together they exposed the entire conspiracy. The forged financial report, the stolen letter, the altered marriage timeline, and the secret campaign to remove Min Jae as CEO had all been planned by one man. His uncle. The shareholders exchanged stunned glances. One after another, they voted. The decision was unanimous. The uncle was stripped of every executive position, every voting right, and every claim to future leadership. For the first time, he had nothing left to hide behind. But Chairman Kang's final surprise had not yet been revealed. The lawyer unfolded one last document and turned toward Amara. The chairman didn't choose the richest person to protect his legacy. He said gently. He chose the kindest. He explained that Chairman Kong had created a personal charitable foundation years before his passing. Instead of leaving it to another family executive, he entrusted its leadership to Amara. It was not a reward. It was a responsibility. He believed her compassion, honesty, and courage would help far more people than wealth alone ever could. Tears filled the room. Min Jae looked at Amara with quiet admiration, realizing his father had seen her true worth long before he ever did. Amara accepted the responsibility with humility. I will protect this legacy with kindness, she said softly. The meeting ended, justice had finally been served, and the truth had defeated deception. Yet one question still remained unanswered. Could a broken heart ever learn to trust the man who had once doubted it? Some promises survive generations. They wait patiently until the right people are brave enough to keep them. What began as a marriage built on misunderstanding was about to become a story of forgiveness, purpose, and a future no one had imagined. Several months passed. Under Amara's leadership, Chairman Kang's foundation became more than a charitable organization. It created scholarships for talented adults, launched business mentorship programs, and built partnerships connecting African entrepreneurs with Korean investors. Lives began changing across 2 continents, proving that kindness could create opportunities where money alone never could. Min Jae never tried to impress Amara with expensive gifts or grand speeches. Instead, he quietly stood beside her at every project, listening to her ideas, supporting her decisions, and earning back her trust one honest action at a time. For the first time in his life, he was no longer leading with power. He was leading with humility. One peaceful evening, they met beneath the cherry blossom tree where Chairman Kong had once written about the promise he intended to keep. The falling petals surrounded them as Min Jae held a small wooden box. Inside was not another wedding contract. There were no family conditions, no business agreements, only a simple silver ring. Looking into Amara's eyes, he spoke with quiet sincerity. My father left me an empire, but you taught me how to deserve it. For a moment, Amara said nothing. Then she smiled through grateful tears. She gently took his hand. The greatest promises aren't inherited, she whispered. They're kept. This time, they chose each other freely, not because of family expectations, but because trust had replaced fear and forgiveness had healed what pride once destroyed. Together they honored Chairman Kang's final wish. Not to build the biggest business empire, but to build a family founded on integrity, compassion, and respect. Years later, people remembered the Kong family not for its fortune, but for the lives it transformed through hope and opportunity. And every spring, beneath the blooming cherry blossoms, one promise continued to bloom with them. Power may build an empire, but kindness is what protects it. Forgiveness does not erase the past. It gives the future a chance to grow. The wrong marriage became the right destiny, because one promise outlived a lifetime.